So today I'm going to show you how I make my loaded potato soup. These are some potatoes that I had from a bumper crop that I planted late in the summer this year, and I yielded quite a bit of potatoes doing this, so I'll probably do this again next year. But I'm just taking the time to wash all the potatoes. I did not wash them when I brought them in so that they could sit and cure well before I use them. So I'm just going to wash all the potatoes off really well before I peel them. So I realized after peeling this little potato that I needed to start getting my bacon on, and this is some of my homemade bacon that I made a couple of vlogs back. You can see how I make homemade bacon, but it's a couple of the ends and the pieces of bacon that I was not able to cut up into some thin sliced bacon. So I knew that I would save them back and use them for this soup, and they were really good. So I just continue on peeling all of these potatoes, taking out any bad spots and any spots that are green. I just make sure that I really get those places out and just rinse them off after I cut them to make sure there's no dirt or anything on them. So once I've prepped my potatoes to be ready to be diced up, I remembered that I had some ham and some bacon in my refrigerator. I would not serve my family just potatoes without any protein in it because I have all boys that I'm feeding this meal to. So I need to beef this up and put as much protein and make it as hearty as possible, and this is how I do that. So I had those little bacon ends. I found some other bacon in the refrigerator, some store-bought bacon that I needed to use up, and then I also had some ham that I bought for another recipe that I only used half of that I needed to use this up as well. So I just dice everything up really small, and I want to put it in my pan and get a little bit of a sear on all of the meat and cook the bacon all the way through. My homemade bacon does look a little bit burnt here, but it's not. It almost was, but it's not. That bacon had some brown sugar on it before I smoked it. So the brown sugar is what is caramelizing really dark in this pan. But I'm able to take some chicken broth and deglaze this pan and get all of that good flavor from the meat into my broth. So I'm just going to chop up a little bit of garlic and some onion. I decided not to do that little red onion. These are a couple of onions that I found that were also from my garden that were really tiny and they didn't grow very big. I hope to have a better onion harvest next year in my garden, but I just cut up the tiny little one. I didn't have any more white onions. I need to get to the store and buy some more, but instead I just cut this little one up, and then I used some dried minced garlic that I have on my shelf. So now that the bacon and the ham is all cooked through and crispy, I just take all of this out so that I can deglaze my pan and then put the potatoes in and get them soft. So I put my meat off to the side, and then I put my onions and garlic in the pan and my minced dried garlic in here and soften these vegetables. You don't want to get any brown or to burn them, but you just want to get a little bit of softness to them and add flavor to your pan. Now I just dice my potatoes. It doesn't really matter what size you make these because you're just going to blend most of this up anyway, but I cut these into little tiny dices because I wanted it to cook faster. So now I'm going to take my chicken stock. You can use beef broth or anything you want here, water. I prefer to use chicken stock and just deglaze all of that goodness out of the bottom of your pan so that it is in your potato soup. After I deglazed the pan, I ended up adding about 6 cups of stock to my pan. So we're going to add our potatoes right to the stock and boil it in this. You do not have to boil your potatoes in water and then take them out and put them in here. We want all the flavor of that stock in our potatoes. So I just add it straight to this pot, and it takes about 15-20 minutes to soften these potatoes. And you want to be able to put a fork into them and them to slide right off of the fork. And then you know that they are ready. So I just turn my heat up to medium high and I get this boiling and keep a close eye on it so it doesn't boil over. And I'm going to bring my food processor out. I did not feel like manually shredding my cheese, so I use this method a lot when I have to shred a lot of cheese, but I'm just going to shred this block of, I like to use extra sharp cheddar, but you can use whatever cheese you like, and I just grate this extra sharp cheddar up into my food processor. You can see my potatoes are boiling really well and are almost finished at this point. So when they're fork tender, you can take a potato masher and just mash them all up. You do not have to make them into a creamy soup, but that's the way we like ours. So I end up not really caring for the consistency of this with the masher, and I end up getting out my handheld food blender, and I use this little thing a lot. I don't remember what it's called, but I just use this, and you can see how quickly this turns this into a creamy potato soup. I left a little bit of texture in here, but not a whole lot. I like mine all the way smooth and creamy. So after I get the consistency the way I like it, I add about a cup of milk. You can also add cream or half and half here, whatever you want. I needed to use this milk up, so I just added milk to my soup. And the potatoes make it really thick anyway, so the milk is a little bit thinner of a liquid and helps to make this the right consistency of what we like for our potato soup. So now I'm going to add in about a cup of cheese kind of slowly and just mix it into the soup. You do not want to use pre-packaged already shredded cheese here. This will just clump up on you. You want to use freshly shredded cheese here for the best results. The sharp cheddar cheese just adds a little bit more of a tang to the soup and a little bit of a salty flavor. You always want to taste your food while you are going through your cooking process and adding different things. So I wanted to taste it here after putting the cheese in, and it did need a little bit more salt. So I put in about 2 teaspoons of salt and maybe a half a teaspoon of pepper. And then it tasted perfect after I did that. Now you can add in your meat of choice and stir that around, and your potato soup is ready after, you heat the meat back up a little bit more into the soup. And this soup was so good and so full of flavor. My family loved it and everybody got seconds. So you could at this point put anything else you want in the soup. You could put some sour cream, you could put some chives. I didn't have any of that, but I did put some more shredded cheddar cheese on top, and I put a little bit of thyme on mine. You could put parsley or anything you want to make it more loaded than this. But I appreciate you stopping by, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.